G'day everybody, Farmer Wade here for Billboard Battalion. We're in Canberra currently at Parliament House, and today is the 23rd of July 2025, and we're here to do our interviews with politicians with regards to the international health regulations that the Labor Party have signed us up to here with the World Health Organisation, which is a disaster. But we're here to do our first interview with Victorian Senator Babet, and Ralph's team here, Senator Babet's team, are really, they are switched on and they're goers, I tell you. These people shoot straight, there's no mucking around here. So I'd just like to introduce Senator Babet here, and just a little bit of something you might like to say about this for a start.
Yeah, well, look, thank you for coming in to see me today. I appreciate it. You're doing good work, bringing awareness to the IHR and all the other crazy things that this government's up to. Unfortunately, just in my opinion, I think that they're doing a pretty poor job. I think, to put it lightly, I think that when you look at things like the IHR, what they're potentially doing is, what they are doing is they're selling our country out down the road, and they're giving more and more power to these unelected globalist bureaucrats to have a say over what we do in our own country and a say over our lives. And I'm sure we'll get stuck into it. But thanks for coming.
Absolutely, and it's fantastic to be here, because a lot of people said to us, look, these politicians, they're all the same. They won't talk to you and so on.
You know a good one. You know a good one. I'd like to think I'm one of the ones that are more connected with the, with the pain points that the average person's filling out there. And you know what? I'm just going to go on a bit of a tangent, if that's okay, while I've got your audience here and we're early on in the piece. What we really need to see happen, my friend, is we need to see regular, everyday people, mums and dads sitting at home watching this broadcast right now, get involved in politics. Because for too long, we've let professional careerists run roughshod over us. And look what they've done. They've really destroyed our country wholesale. We don't even make anything here anymore. That's not an accident. Why can't we do that? We can't do it because it is impossible with the legislative burdens that we have here to even, make a simple little widget here. And everything's going offshore. All these things are not accidents. They're a consequence of people not paying attention to politics and not being involved. So we've got to get involved.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad you've said that, because for many years, or 40 years in fact, I've been involved in particularly agricultural politics. And I say to our farmers, what's the most important element of your farming operation, your business and your success? And rain, it's this and that and the other thing. I say, no, it's politics. Because a politician with the stroke of a pen can destroy your business and your industry.
That's right.
And I say, you might not be interested in politics, but politics is very interested in you.
That's right. And also, the penalty for refusing to participate in the political process is quite literally, in my opinion, is being governed by your inferiors. And that's what's going on in this building, in my humble opinion. There are a lot of people running around this place that have no idea what they're doing, but worse than that, they don't care. They don't care about what the decisions that they make have on the average everyday person out in the real world. And a lot of the people in here have been here for far too long. They become completely disconnected from reality, and they make decisions in what we like to call a Canberra bubble.
Yes.
So without reference to what's happening on Main Street, but caring only about what the bureaucrats in this building here think, and that's very dangerous.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad that you're saying that, because people need to hear this just off the cuff, as it is, shoot straight from our politicians, and I think that there's only a very small number of politicians in our country who are decent and are having a red hot crack, and I think that you are absolutely one of them.
I appreciate that. There are far too few of us. I won't name names, but I think most of your viewers will probably know who they are. But there are good people in here that are fighting the good fight and trying their very hardest to swing this country back towards some sort of common sense, some sort of normality, because unfortunately common sense is not so common in the halls of Parliament House in Canberra. But like I was saying before, when we first started, regular people got to take more of an interest, and they've got to join parties, and they've got to get more active in the political process, because if they don't, what's happening now will just get worse and worse.
So, I do a small demonstration about the politics, and I say to people, well, in our country, the people in politics that are running the government, they are the most susceptible for attack from people who want to corrupt them. So that force is always pushing against them. we the people have to create an equal force, to keep them on the straight and narrow. And I think that's just reality. So, the other part of what I would say is that if we're going to ask our politicians to stick their neck out and actually do the right thing, then we as a country and as a nation and as people, we need to be prepared to back them.
Good point. Good point. You have to back the people that are standing up for you. I mean, all too often, and I see this around these halls, there are politicians that would think the same way that you and I do. As an example, that want to push back against these unelected globalist organizations like the UN, WHO having too much influence over the direction of this country. They are there and they want to speak. But the reason they don't speak, this is just my opinion from what I've seen, they don't speak is because they know if they speak, if they are too out there, if they stick their neck out, so to say, they may not get that cushy position next time, or they may not get back on the ticket next time, because behind the scenes there are these power brokers that decide who is going to be on that Senate ticket or on that House of Reps ticket next time, and they don't want to upset those people, so they just shut their mouth. They know they shouldn't. They know they should say something. They know, as an example, they should say, hey, look, the WHO has too much influence over this country, the UN has too much control over our policies here, or the direction that we're heading in. We should say something. But if they say that thing, then they put their position in jeopardy next time.
Absolutely.
Then yes. that is a really sad thing to see. I wish it wasn't like that, but that's the harsh reality of this place. But if they knew that the people out there would support them no matter what, would get behind them, if the people out there were, more invested and involved in the political process, if the people out there joined parties when it came time next time to vote as to who would be on that Senate ticket or that House of Reps ticket, they knew that they were safe and they were secure because average people cared, then they would be more willing to step out. But like I mentioned, it is up to everyone who's watching this video to do something, because I think that a lot of people, they're upset, they may talk on Facebook or talk on social media, they'll leave comments saying, why aren't you doing this or why aren't you doing that? That's great, but you have to take the next step now. You got to join parties, you got to be involved, you have to have a say as to who comes to Canberra, and you've got to protect the people that are here now that are fighting for you.
150%, and that's what we push all the time, is to say that, if you've got people who are going to stand up and fight, you better back them. And when people say, oh, look, Wade, I'm only one, what can I do? You join up with others and you back the people who are on the front lines.
One makes a big difference.
Yes.
It starts with one, yes, but, one person has a friend and then they have a friend, and then before you know it, there's 10 of you. And then you might go to a political party meeting and you might find that there are only 50 people there, right, in total. So, you and your group of friends now have a great influence over what happens over that political party and what decisions they make. So it's very important that people get active. It's so important.
Absolutely, you bet. I mean, but we could have a yarn about that for the next 6 or 7 hours, I'm pretty sure, because it's great to see somebody who is in Canberra and who is a politician who is saying exactly what you're just saying there. I
am begrudgingly a politician. This is not what I wanted to do. I was happy living my life, and all I wanted was the government to leave me the hell alone. And then, as I was one of those people that just complained on social media, and then one day I just clicked. I said, you know what? I've had enough of this. And what got me to click over was the oppression that I lived under in the state of Victoria under the COVID regime.
Yep.
And I just saw that everything that they were doing was, unscientific. It was just crazy what they were up to. And I just thought, you know what? I can't just sit at home and sit on Facebook or sit on X or sit on Instagram, YouTube, whatever, and complain. I've got to do something. So I begrudgingly put my hand up to run for office in order to get in this place and make a difference. So even though I am a politician today, I really don't see myself as a politician. I see myself as a regular everyday person that slipped through the cracks. And you know what? A lot more of us need to slip through the cracks and get in this building and, ruffle it up slightly and get these professional careerists to pay attention to Main Street, because in my opinion, once again, I don't think they do.
Well, we don't see a lot in our mainstream media about a lot of issues. I wanted to make the point that these IHRs, they have been big in the political movement But the average Joe on the street has got no idea in the world they even exist, or let alone how serious and dangerous this stuff is.
Very, very dangerous. Very. So for those of you who don't know, the IHR, the International Health Regulations, essentially in a nutshell, in simple language, what it says that us as Australians, we're going to hand over decision-making authority to the United Nations. To the World Health Organization, which is a sister organization of the UN. So let's just say, as an example, that a health emergency rolls around in a year or 2 years, 5 years, or whatever. Whatever the WHO says we have to do here, we must obey. Masking, rushed injections, lockdowns, whatever it might be, we basically have to default back to them. And if they say X, we say yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and that's that. So I would make the argument that Australians are best placed to decide what's best for Australians, not the WHO, which is based all the way over in Geneva, in Europe.
So people, and many people have never heard of what we're talking about now, and so therefore that's one of the things I'm grateful for, because we can get this into the mainstream language and get people to question what's happening here. And the things that you've just said there, to anybody, if you said that to me, I saw it on the TV or whatever, or on social media, I'd go, what did they say?
I mean, look, at the end of the day, right, very simple again, we're Australians. As Australians, we need to decide right here at home what's best for us. And this IHR stuff is just one example of us ceding our sovereignty over to these unelected globalist bureaucrats, right? In what world is it okay for the UN or the WHO or anybody else to say what we should do here? We're an independent country, we're sovereign, we decide what's best for us. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't, cooperate or work with other countries in the world, but at the end of the day, the buck's got to stop with whoever's in charge right here at home. It's got to stop with this parliament here. And then ultimately, we're accountable to the Australian people through the, once every 3 years we go to the ballot box. And that's okay. But to say that all of a sudden the United Nations of all people that have no allegiance to us at all get to decide anything whatsoever to do with Australia, I think that's complete bullshit. It really is. And people really need to be aware of what's going on right now. This is just one example, but all we're doing as a country, and both sides of politics are guilty of this, is handing over our decision-making authority to these unelected globalists, and that's very wrong.
Without any doubt whatsoever. I just wanted to look at, when you are talking about we've ceded our sovereignty, how does that work? And now my understanding is that now the World Health Organization makes some sort of declaration, we have to follow it. So Tedros, who's the Director General, one man, and this is my interpretation, you tell me if you think I'm over the top at all, but one man gets to make a declaration that he alone decides what it is, with no proof of anything, and then effectively starts to take control of our responses to some phantom whatever that doesn't even exist.
Well, look, in simple language, that's basically what's going to happen. If the WHO decides that there's a problem, the WHO can decide the response, and we have to abide by what they say. There is very little recourse for us here in Australia. We'll be very hard pressed to say no. We shouldn't be in this position at all.
Absolutely.
At all. No. Every decision that we make should be made here for our own country. We shouldn't be defaulting to anybody at all, be it in this case with WHO or anything else at all. And, the United States, as you are aware, has said, no, we're not going to sign up to this. We don't care. Our sovereignty is more important. And why aren't we following suit? The United States is, our most important security partner. They're a member of the Five Eyes program. We're very close with them. They're part of the Anglosphere. They can say no. Why can't we say no? And you know what it comes down to? It comes down to a failure of leadership. It comes down to putting the wrong people in those powerful positions. They don't have the kahunas, they don't have the backbone, they don't have the balls to just say, no United Nations, no WHO, we're Australians. Australians decide what's best for us. Go away, see you later. End of story. It doesn't need to become a big song and dance. It can just be no.
So, is it necessary? So just say, for example, worst case, and I mean the WHO for mine, they're nothing more than a terrorist organisation, and they are connected to the UN and the World Economic Forum. So but anyway, that's my opinion. You might not agree, and that's okay.
I would agree. All these globalist organisations are all interconnected in some way behind the scenes. All of them. Like you mentioned, WHO, UN, WEF, it's all the same people intermixing behind the scenes. Obviously, I'm not okay with it. Obviously, this stuff is top of mind for me, and I just wish more people paid attention to what was going on at the very highest levels. I think there's a big push right now in the entire world to strip sovereign nation states of decision-making power and hand more and more and more power over time. And this has been very, very consistent for a very long time now to these unelected globalist bodies. They are doing their darndest to push us towards a global government, which on paper sounds like a great idea. But if you do that, then there is no nation state anymore.
Exactly.
There's only a globalized world, which is what they want. It benefits them, but it doesn't benefit us as Australians.
It's very bad for us. So if the WHO says we recommend something, why do we need to be legally bound to that? If we have the capacity,
well, I agree with you, yeah.
we could say, okay, well, we'll take that on board. Thanks very much. We see that's going to be critically, absolutely catastrophic for our country. Maybe not. Okay.
Well, you're talking too much common sense here.
I know.
Common sense in this building is not very common. There is no common sense in Canberra. Like I said before, I'm not opposed to working with any country, any group, any organisation. They can make all the recommendations they want, but at the end of the day, we should be able to say we don't accept this, or we don't think this is right for us, or we're going to tweak this, or whatever it might be. But they shouldn't have the final authority, final say in what we as Australians do in anything. Not just in this particular case with the WHO, but in absolutely anything at all. And if we had more regular people that had the common sense which you've just displayed in this building, they wouldn't get anywhere near as far as what they've been able to get so far. But unfortunately, what we have in here is we have career politicians that are more worried about being re-elected next time and about appeasing the power brokers behind the scenes than what they are about doing the right thing for the country. This is my opinion once again. But that's what I feel like what's happening here.
Well, you see this every day. So you're on the ground here, you would see that happening. So I wanted to expand a little bit, if I could, on what capacity this would give for people who don't understand. So I talk a hell of a lot to farmers, to industry, and to the regular people, and say that this pandemic treaty, which is what it's turned out to be, if, for example, the WHO said, and this is happening right now as we speak, that if they said, look, we've just worked out, or we've just decided, not based on science, not based on evidence, just based on some whatever, that climate change is now a pandemic, which this literally gives them the power to do. Do you think that gives them the capacity then to start impacting our farmers, for example, and say, well, under the new climate change pandemic, we're going to have to start shutting down farms, and we look at the climate modelling. So that means that there's certain regions and areas and processes. We're going to have to start shutting our agricultural sector down because it's under this. But the WHO is telling us to do it. It's not us in the government.
Yeah. So look, with things like this, it's incrementalism. They start off with something that seems plausible at first, okay? And once the framework is in, they can always expand it. So what they define it as is basically a health emergency. Could they declare that climate change is a health emergency one day? I wouldn't put it past them. It's entirely possible. My experience in this place really has shown me that they will take something and then they will implement it and then they will expand upon it later. It's just, first, it comes in as perfectly reasonable. And no unreasonable person will say, oh, that's a bad idea. So yeah, it's reasonable. And then later it expands. Kind of, I'll give you an example, kind of like the digital ID bill. When they first brought in the digital ID bill, it was, this will be voluntary. Okay. Now it's seeming like it's going to be mandatory because potentially what's going to happen is if you don't have a digital ID, you may not be able to work with certain government agencies. right? Let's say you need to do your taxes. You can't do your taxes unless you've got a digital ID. You want to work, you need to talk to Centrelink. You can't talk to Centrelink unless you've got a digital ID. So it's looking more and more like it's going to become mandatory, but they're going to say, oh, it's not mandatory. But if you want to do your taxes, if you want to talk to Centrelink, you're going to have it. So that's how they get these things through, incrementalism, bit by bit by bit.
So we've seen over the last 5 years how they set out and telling you something. Oh, it's voluntary. It's for the good of the country. Oh, but now if you don't do certain things, you won't be able to go to work. You won't. So this is exactly
great example.
Yes.
That's what I did during COVID. Get your jab. It's voluntary, but if you don't have it, you can't go to work. I mean, is it really voluntary at that point? The government loves to do things like this. They absolutely love it, and it's up to people out there to be diligent and to think through something, more than 1 or 2 steps into the future. Yes, look what they're saying today, but look where it could end up later on. Think about it for more than a second. It's very important.
Absolutely, and so we've got that experience now. The Australian people have that. In fact, the world have that experience where they told you this, but they went further and further and further and further. So one of the big ticket items that we would be looking at with this international health regulations is the shutdown of what they call misinformation. Now, I think that is just incredibly dangerous. Like we were protesting here. Billboard Battalion came to Canberra in November, I think, last year, and we put on basically a emergency pop-up protest against the misinformation, disinformation bill. And when we've seen over, if you like, COVID, we saw so many doctors and medical experts who were shut down.
Many were proven to be right now, by the way.
This is my whole point. This is where I'm going with this, is that no matter what, we cannot afford to have some people who have very, very nefarious intentions start to shut down our right to speak. And that is literally what we're dealing with on this stuff.
Well, good point. And the United Australia Party and myself, at the start of this year, we put a bill forward to guarantee freedom of speech in this country. So what I proposed was a constitutional amendment to say that every Australian has the right to speak and no one can do anything about it. Because if you can't speak freely, you can't think clearly. And I think what the government's doing now, and Labor and Liberal have equal parts to play in this, is they are attempting, in my opinion, once again, to shut down narratives that they don't approve of, that the machine doesn't approve of. If we go down this road very, very quickly, we will lose Australia. We're going to end up like North Korea or communist China or something like this. Freedom of speech is the most important right that we have in our society. Yes. It absolutely is. It must be protected, it must be cherished, and the authoritarians in Canberra, in this building, but more importantly, the bureaucrats behind the scenes that want to take away that right to speak are quite literally, and I mean these, are quite literally the enemies of Australians. They are your enemy. Now, I'm not saying to, get out there and, do anything bad to them.
No.
Get them at the ballot box.
Yep.
Get them at the ballot box. They are your enemy. They hate you. Anyone who would take away the right of a person to be able to speak their mind is not your friend.
Guaranteed. And they're not your representative.
That's right. I mean, we don't have to agree on whatever it is. We can disagree until the cows come home, but we should have the right to be able to say what's on our mind. And then somebody else could have a right to counter whatever we say. That is the best way to have a free, prosperous, safe society. The right to speak must be protected.
Well, I think that we've already seen a big thing on that with regard to APRA. Now, with the COVID stuff, APRA shut down doctors' right to advise their own patients of the treatments that they needed. So that is a classic example of what you're saying. And under the IHRs, I'm telling you that this would be expanded enormously to all the social media platforms. Mainstream media are already dead in the water. They've already capitulated. They will not tell the Australian people the truth or the facts or what is so important to them. So once again, to come back to the international health regulations in combination with the One Health policy, this has the capacity to shut down all the freedom of speech that we're talking about here that is so critically important, and actually make it illegal to talk about certain issues if the government don't want you. And Jacinda Ardern in the New Zealand, she said...
Sole source of truth.
Oh, you're onto it, yeah.
The government's going to be your sole source of truth. Look, I wouldn't trust the government, like I said before, as far as I could throw them. They are so far from your sole source of truth. It's just not even funny. I mean, the government's been wrong on so many things so consistently that anybody who outright just trusts the government on everything needs to have their heads read. You've got to have your head read. You've got to verify everything yourself. You've got to be aware that the people that are in these positions of great power are fallible, just like everyone else, and they're not perfect. They're just people, and sometimes these people have nefarious intent. Sometimes they're just stupid. So you must verify everything yourself, and like I keep on harping on about, you must protect the right to have a freedom of speech in Australia. Otherwise, you're going to lose Australia. It's gone.
So I very much appreciate your time. We'll just have a couple of more things, just to sort of look at where we're at with the agriculture sector, because that's I want to sort of focus on a bit. Here in Canberra, we're dealing with, just for an example, the National Farmers Federation. And, I've been saying for a long time, we need to do different things to represent our farmers. Now, the NFF have been really, really pushing all the climate change stuff and the getting to net zero. We've got to get to net zero, which means net zero farmers. That's what that's about. Mm-hmm. So now the CEO of the National Farmers Federation, and if you don't want to talk about this, that's okay. The CEO of the National Farmers Federation resigned recently, and got a job as, wait for it, the Commissioner in charge of renewable infrastructure.
Lovely.
So I mean,
it's a bit of a conflict.
Well,
I don't know.
So we, and I say a lot about this that I won't ask you about here today. But I go, we shoot straight at that. We line up full 16-inch guns and just nail that. Yeah. Because to me, that is, and I'll say this differently. In my opinion, there are many, many people who supposedly represent their members or constituents or whatever, who are nothing more than professional board jumpers. They have to prove to the bean counters, the powers or whatever, that they're prepared to sell out whoever it is and run with the line that they're told. And I think this is where one of the big problems we've got with the WHO is. We've seen in the past, they are nefarious, they lie. They had what they call a 2005 health regulations. They completely blew them up and just went and did whatever they wanted in total diametrically opposed to the things that was their baby.
Yeah.
So this new one is 100 million times worse. Now they have legal authority to force Australia to do this. So yeah, maybe some final words on that.
Yeah.
And
some final words on the whole of the net zero debacle. I mean, like you said, net zero is total garbage. At the end of the day, net zero is an affront to humanity, is what it is. Yeah. Because people watching at home, you would know this. We are carbon-based life forms. So what are they really saying? It's an attack on life itself. It's an attack on humanity. It's actually quite evil if you really break it down and really think about it. Yep. They're saying that carbon is the enemy. Humanity is the enemy. Human consumption is the enemy. You're the enemy, mum and dad watching at home. Your kids are the enemy. I think these people at the very highest levels are very evil people. I'll use that word. They're very evil people. And all of their underlings are just stupid. They're either stupid or they're in on it. There's no other option. It's one of those two. Or at the very, very highest levels, there are actually evil people that hate life itself. At the end of the day, I'm happy to say this, but I think there is an agenda in play at the moment to reduce global population. That's what it's coming down to. I mean, they've talked about this numerous times in different think tanks where they'd like to see reduced numbers of people on this planet, and I think this is just one of the ways that they're going to get around to achieving that end, that goal that they've set. It's something that more people need to be aware of, and it's very, very nefarious. So, mum and dad, people at home, pay attention to what your politicians are up to. most of the politicians are just idiots anyway, but pay attention to what the guys at the very, very top are talking about and what they're saying. So get active in the political process.
Absolutely. And to get to that end, if they take out our farmers, they take out our food security, then that would play a big part towards that end game.
It's all part of it. There are so many moving pieces on this chessboard, but if you take a step back and you look at it from an overall view, you can really start to see how evil the globalist class really is. They're not good people.
Absolutely. All right, well, I think that's a terrific place to leave it with.
Thank you, sir.
Do you think that other politicians here, while we're here in Canberra for the next couple of weeks, should be talking to us and discussing this issue as well? Do you think they should be saying, hang on, let's just be straight with the Australian people?
Look, I think it's very important that people like yourself exist. We need more citizen journalists, so to speak, to get out there and have their views heard, to talk to their parliamentarians, to talk to people in their community. We can't keep allowing the mainstream legacy media to have full control of the narrative. So people like yourself and the work that you do and others is very, very important. And I wish there was 1,000 more like you, because if there was, then the country would look very different.
All right, great. Well, we might catch up again soon and maybe just do an update on where we're at and what's happened. So look, I very much appreciate your time, and your staff here have been just absolutely amazing. They're terrific people, this is, at least we know we've got one who's we got one here who's firing and fighting for Australia in real terms. All right, thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.